Hey everybody, David R. Becker here. Hey, first demo of 2023. I'm in my studio this morning and I just decided to have a little bit of fun. And I had watched the series of the Wednesdays. And so I just thought, hey, let's try something a little bit different, a little bit more difficult. And I just want to show you what I'm going to be doing with this. I'm just going to do a picture, I put a little portrait of Wednesday. This is all over the internet and all over TikTok and Facebook and that dance that she's doing. And so I thought I'd just do a little rendition of it. Just going to try a few different things. And I am going to use watercolor and gouache together. And I will start out. It's done on Stonehenge Stonehenge Aqua cold press, 300 pound. And I did trace it. I did and then after I did a little tracing really quickly, I did the rest of it with my pencil on top of the thing, just because I want to do this quick, and I just want to show you how can do portraits. And portraits with watercolor are no different than doing anything else. You start out light to dark, and so that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to start out with the light colors, and I'm going to keep it because of the fact that she is very her whole thing is goth, kind of white and black basically, and so we're going to use a lot of that. We're going to use it with a little dark, make her dark. And we're using a lot of black, and so we're just going to go in here and just have fun with this. And I probably should have I should have the music in the background, be kind of fun. So I'm just going to use some grays with her flesh tones. I am going to go with like a pinkish white. So I'm going to put a little white with pink. And I mean, they want her to be very, very white skinned, and so very goth like. And so we're going to, though, put in just a little bit of pink into it anyways. And so I'm just going to put that in there because you don't want it just white. Though I could do it black and white, but I'm just going to let a little bit of the flesh tone come into there. And again, work with the lights first. And I'm not going to worry about the darks yet. Again, my color scheme is going to be very limited, and we're just going to make it very. And I'm going to probably put a little bit of. I was thinking of maybe putting shadows across her face, make it a little bit more painterly than a photograph. So, and I'm also going to make it try to look like she's moving a little bit. Where that's what we can do as artists. We can make it look like she is moving. And if you watch the program or watch the series, it's a pretty fun series to watch. And so I'm just going to go in here and put a little bit of blue. It's going to be a lot of blue in the background, and so I might as well put it right in here now with her flesh tones. And shadowing. It's no different. People find that once they start doing something with the figure, it's all about the drawing. And I've taken 4 years of life drawing, and I'll be talking about drawing and how to get a good picture on the rest of this week in my newsletter. I'll be doing a little study on telling you how you should be getting the drawing onto your paper. Either tracing it, or if you have the skill of drawing it. But the number one and most important thing about your drawing, about your painting, will be the drawing. So it has to be correct. If you don't have the drawing, everything's about the drawing. You need to get that drawing looking good. And so I'm wetting the arm. Again, I'm doing my lights. Everything else is going to be darker, and so I'm putting a little bit of flesh tone in there, even though I'm going to use a little bit of blue to put in for the shadowing of her hand. And I'm not putting in the hard edge yet. I'm just putting in because there's a little bit of a hard edge in the shadow of her arms. And I'm going to make this a little bit bluer. And again, I'm looking at values like always. I'm always looking out for values. The value is so much more important than the actual color, though color is kind of nice, and to put it in right, put it in the way it's supposed to be. And here, like on her hand, I'm going to put a little bit dark in here, right from the get-go, because her hand is really dark right here. And, so I'm staying away from the face just for the beginning, just a little bit, just to kind of show you. Uh-oh, my streaming looks like it's... Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year. I'm going to go in here. And now with her face, when you start with the face, keep it simple. I mean, you have the drawing. I have the drawing just exactly the way I want it. So you can do the eyes, nose, and mouth. That'll identify the shape of the model. But I just need to get the temperature and some of the values in there right offhand. And the whites of the eyes are not all white. People think that they're white. No, there's a little bit of lightness in there, but you don't have to worry about that. I'm just gonna go in and get the main color I want of the flesh. And because again, they want it to look, see how the white that got now, even though I put a little bit of orange in there. You know, I got to put a little flesh tone in there. That's fine. You can get that, but it's going to dry pretty light, 20% lighter. So it has the feel of more like of the goth look that she was trying to portray. And so here I'm going to go in with the darks a little bit. And on her face, even though I will give her a little bit of rosy cheeks, just slightly, just to kind of give it the kind of a look. Usually in life drawing, you learn that you put the rosy cheeks, more yellow in the forehead and grayer in the chin. That's just generalizing, but that works. It works pretty well when it comes to generalizing. And that's what we do as artists when we're doing these first washes. We're generalizing the values and the colors. Here's all going to be, I'm doing my light areas now. Again, the light areas. And I know in the photograph her neck is really light, but I'm going to push it back a little bit by making it a little bit lighter. And you notice how I went right over the eyes and everything to get... Oh boy, I'm dropping frames. It looks like hopefully... Not sure why my internet connection maybe not be good or something today. Hopefully you're seeing everything. You never know with this internet connections how good things are. Here we're going to go in here now and get some of the darks. And you know, you go from light to dark, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going light to dark, and I'm just getting all my lights in there. And I'm putting some warm reds into my blue here, and it'll be a little dark shadowing underneath her eyes. We'll get the actual shape of like the nose and all that later on when we get more of the... Right now I'm getting all soft edges. I'm trying to get all soft edges. Now it is drying pretty quickly, so I'm going to re-wet here a little bit. I'm just trying to get a little bit of the shadowing of the face. When I go into the darks, you'll see it'll be really dark, and I'll get hard edges, and I'll hopefully get them where they're supposed to be, and I can soften them as I go along too. So I'm just going to make sure that this side of her cheek is pretty light, and so I'm just going to keep it at what it is. And then the background, now let's get some of the background lights in there. I'm going to go with some blues and grays. I want to follow that because that's what the whole thing, the whole director you can see in the show, it's very much dark, you know, a lot of blues and stuff in there, and so go ahead and do that. You know, it's okay to use black too. I'm going to be using solid black when I go in to get my darks, because that's part of her whole scheme, is to be, you know, always dressed in black. And so I don't have to mix my blacks to get that. Just get them. Just use black. I know we were taught in school never to use black and then mix your own blacks and get them colorful. Well, in this instance, I'm not going to do that because I don't need to make it super, super colorful. Because this whole thing about Wednesday is that she's more not colorful. She's always wearing black. It's actually kind of a really nice, fun program. If you ever want to watch something fun, it's if you like the Addams Family and stuff, this is really like the modern version of it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. And so here now again, I'm going with my lights. These are still my lights. I didn't get into the darks yet. And maybe maybe a little bit more in her hand. Okay, I think we're ready to go into the darks. And so I'll do the background darks first and get into her and then make her the foreground, because I don't want all of it though to be hard edged around her. So like this will be right into the bottom of her dress. And so let's just start there. Let's go with this area because I can stop it right here. So I use my big brush. Let me see how many people are watching. Is there anybody watching? I've got 3 at least. Let me see. Cool. And so Happy New Year, by the way, everybody. I was watching this morning, Sunday morning, and I just realized that Barbara Walters had passed away. I didn't know that until this morning. And then they had everybody else who had passed away, and I was surprised how many people this year in the whole field of music and stars and stuff. Boy, there's a lot of them this year. And all the people that we kind of know, that we grew up with. And you see I'm using blue. I'm using some Prussian blue, some black. And I'm going to go make it dark, dark. I'm not going to hesitate to do it right away and get it in there. And maybe even some opaqueness to it. There we're going to go. I'm going to use my big round brush because I'm going to be drawing a little bit. Looks like in the front of her dress here, it's a little bit more lacy black part. And then we'll take the black and Prussian blue and just go right through here, get the side of her arm. Here it kind of goes down hard edged, so we'll lose that line, which is good. We don't like to keep the lines in there. Side of her arm. And once it's wet, then I can go, if I need to put other colors in there, I can put a little bit of orange in there too, just to get some warmth reflecting off the arm. And then, because I do want to make it solid black and make it really, really dark, I'm just going to use black with the blue. It'll give me a very rich, rich black. And so this part of her dress that's all lacy, that I'm going to do with a little bit of water and a little bit of the blue, lighter blue. I'll come back in later and get the hard edge stuff. And then around here, see, I'm just going in for the lighter parts of it now, and that doesn't mean I can only use one color. I know that I said that I'll be using a lot of just black and stuff like that, but I will also try to get a little bit of warmth in there, just a little bit, so that it looks like it's foreground. Now her arm, we can just put a little shadowing on her arm. Some of the looseness. Now I'm wetting as I go along. I'm not wetting it all at once like I normally do. I do it in big areas, because I'm working this area right here, and I'm wetting it as I go along. It'll still be wet. Oh boy, I'll just put some shading on there. So it's called painting as you go along, wetting as you go along, because I don't need to have it super wet, and I can still get the soft edges and float in my pigment, but I'm doing it. So I'm not wetting everything, so by the time I get there, it's going to be dry. And I get this part done, and when I'm there, I get it done. I try not to leave the area until it's done, which makes me believe that I need to do this a little bit more here. Get the little frillies in there. Okay, then here, it's pretty dark right there. And it goes up to about here, the darkness. I'll get the side of her arm pretty sharp. And then I'll wet as I go along. And people tend to think they get involved with doing portraits and people in their paintings, and suddenly, especially beginners, they really tighten up. And especially a lot of times they do it for family members, and they'll be doing a family member portrait or something, and I recommend not to do that. If you're going to just start doing portraits and stuff, it's basically the same way we paint everything else, except for the drawing is much more important. the drawing has to be on, right? Otherwise it's not going to look like a person. And so I tend to tell people don't do portraiture of people you know, because it's just too hard. Unless your drawing is super, super great, or you're tracing it. Even tracing it, you have to know about the structure of the face and everything to, even if you're tracing it, you still need to know about those things, like how to get the structure to look like what it's supposed to look like. That's why you want to learn how to draw, because it does not only help you from getting the likeness, but it also helps you to learn how to make things look like what they are, like who they are too. So here I'm going to go in and I'm getting all the soft edges, and I'm going to do a couple little, this I'll go back in later to get those little hard edge parts of the lace. And then this goes right into the background. So what I'm going to do is right here, you notice how it just kind of bleeds into the background. So I'm going to do the same thing. Also at the same time, I put a little purple in my favorite color, purple and orange. So I'm going to put a little bit of purple though in here. And then just come right into here. And then go right into the background, because she is pretty much cut out of dark. If you look, all you see is her ear right here, and so that's important to get those things right. So that's the side of her jaw. I'm negative painting her jaw, her jawline. And you notice again, I'm using a lot of Prussian blue and black. And this goes right into her hair. You almost don't see her hair. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it out first with a hard edge there. I'll come back in later with it a little bit more defined, like it goes right into there, because I like putting washes together. And so we're going to get a little bit of ultramarine blue back here, and so it's not all just black and the Prussian blue. We're going to get a little bit of lighter blue back here. Just going to put that in there, get my line worked out for her arm, and go right into her hair, because this is a little bit lighter. And then she's got the little sideburn here. You do have to be careful, you know, I mean, when you go doing faces, you have to be careful with parts of the picture so that they look like what they are. I mean, you can't just go willy-nilly, unless it's really, really loose painting, unless it's very loose and abstractish. Abstractish, is that a word? I don't think so. If you do more of an abstract kind of look in your painting, then yeah, fine, you can maybe not do it so tight. But see, I'm going to do it a little bit tighter, so I do want to put, like I said, I want to put shadow across her face and maybe do light coming from somewhere, like lights and stuff. And I didn't get the movement in yet because I wanted to do some like movement of the arm and make that less, but I can do that afterwards too. Right now we're just trying to get the big lights and darks. I'm at my second stage right now, getting the large darks and middle tones. Just like I would do a landscape, I'm doing the large middle tones. Stop for that area. Let's see. Let's get up here and get some nice colors up there. Some nice blue. If you guys got questions, please let me know. It's a little bit different. Again, I am using both watercolor and gouache again. I just kind of like having the gouache on the palette just in case I need to make something opaque. You know, at least later on if I need to make it really thick and thick paint. So might as well have it but next to me here. Here's a black that's really dark, and so I'm supposed to be like people back here, but I'm not gonna make that look like people. I'm just gonna make it look like a dark area and run the pigment to make it look kind of nice and make it floaty. Let the pigment granulate. It looks like there's a really dark right by her hand here. Again, I get big areas yet. I'm still doing big areas. Now this whole area is light, and so we're just going to wet that. I'm not going to put that guy back there. I'm just going to make it look dark, and I'm just going to follow the values and make it more just a background. I don't need to see what's back there. It's not part of my painting. I just want to make it look more. Now her whole arm here will be darker once I get this all kind of washed up. I gotta make sure that's dark enough though. Make sure it's dark enough. And I do like the fact that her hair here is kind of soft edge looking. So I'm going to go in there right now and prop my arm up here a little bit. Sorry about this. I'm going to have to get the side here that's wet. But if I use enough paint, it'll still be a soft edge, but it'll be harder than if I didn't wet it. So it gives me a little bit of a soft edge. The hair is better when you're looking if you do a soft edge on it. So wetting it, but then using a lot of pigment to make it look really nice and dark is a good thing. So I'm going in here while it's wet. It's giving me a little bit harder edge because I am going in pretty thick with the paint. And I could also use, if I wanted to, I could use the gouache instead. And over here, her ear is dark, you know, and with the background being light. So, and it goes right into her face. And so we're gonna put a little bit of red over here. And we're gonna make this go right into her eyes. Her hair is kind of falling right into her eyes, and actually the side of her face in here too is a little bit darker. And so let's wet her face on the side here. Let's just wet it. I'm wetting a little bit so I get a soft edge. It's going to bleed right down into her collar here, because you don't see the difference between her collar and her face, so you wouldn't see that either if you're then going to paint the dark on the edge of her face. So see, I'm just going to go in here now and just make that go right into the collar so that you can't see the difference. And then her cheek here, I'll make it a little bit warmer. I'll put a little bit of pink in it. And we're going to go from the side of her face, and you see how it goes up to the side here, and then it comes down. And this is wet. That part's wet, so I'll keep being soft edged. But I do want it to go slowly gradated from a dark and then go right away to a light. And I'm using a little bit warmer colors than in the picture. The photo doesn't have it as light, and I don't want to make it give her a mustache, but I do want it to be darker. Right now she looks like she has a mustache. But hold on one second. I'm just going to make this dark. I'm wetting it, and so I'm still trying to float my pigment. I'm still trying to get in there, and this is not my darkest dark, so the lips and the actual shadowing later will take effect for that. What I want to do is make sure that this is nice and wet. Now my water's kind of dark, so I'm going to wet this area and going with enough pigment, because like that's how I taught you how to blend soft edges, so that you can go in there, wet the surface, and then go in and get a hard edge, a harder edge. It's still a soft edge, but it's a harder soft edge, so that you can do things like this. So you can go in and grab a lot of pigment using black and blue and a little bit of red. I'm going to use a little gouache for that. And then see right here, your cheek is a little bit harder right there. And then right by your chin, right down here, it gets a little bit dark. And then the very bottom of her chin, it's really dark right here, hard edge. And then it goes up here slightly. And this is wet, so I have to use enough pigment so it will just stop at a certain point. There will be a shadow here in her eyes, but that'll be done later. I don't need that to be, I can let that be hard edged. And just here a little bit darker. And this is all wet, so I can just let things float your pigment there. Inside her eyes are kind of bluish, like she has blue makeup on, or it's just dark blue here in the side. Like her eyeshadow looks like it's a little bit dark, so I'm going to put a little dark over it. Knowing that the eyes are going to be darker and the eyelashes will be very, very dark black, and her eyebrows will be dark, and so this is not super, super dark yet. Side of her nose is a little bit darker. It's going to be a lot darker than this, but again, I'm just doing the light parts first. These are the light shadows, light parts of the light shadow. And you notice how I kept it all soft edged? And why is that? Because I did that because it's wet. And so the darks will take care of the rest. I mean, the darks will take care of the rest of. Here got a little bit too hard edged. And you got to be a little bit more careful with that part because it is the face, and so you spend a little bit more time on it, and don't worry about that. It's okay. There's people feel that they don't want to be looser. Well, at certain points you have to be a little bit tighter. Now with her hair here, I'm just going to go in there, use black, and I'm just going to get I have it drawn in so I know where the hairline is. Go right down here, and this is solid black. I just use solid black there, and then using the blue to make it look like it's reflective. And now we're gonna up here go a little bit darker, and as we wisp it downwards, we're gonna, it's wet, so it'll get a nice soft edges. And I listened to an interview, so they really took a lot of time to prepare her hair to look like the older Wednesday from the old show. The bangs and stuff, they really worked hard on getting those bangs to look a certain way. The director did. I was listening to little interviews about it. So here we got it like a little bit darker at the edges. So I'm gonna go in here, and then this is really dark, so I'm gonna make it really dark. Get a couple little hair strands here, and you notice the face is not ready yet. I mean, it's not ready to get the features. And once you get the features, that'll take care of all that stuff in there. And we're still working from large to small, and so it looks sometimes like, you know, it doesn't look that great because you are working large to small. So don't worry about that. Just don't worry about what the picture looks like. Just keep on going for the big areas. Little by little, it gets better and better. People tend to think that, especially beginners, always want their paint to look good the whole way through. Well, that doesn't work. It really doesn't. You have to go through the uglies. My teacher always said, you know, let it go through the uglies. And then by more and more detail that you put in, it'll get better and better as you go along. I'm gonna put my darks in here. It's a dark shadow on the side of her arm. It's actually darker and as dark as the background. And here it actually gets darker than the background. So I'm just gonna put that in here. Gonna clean it up a little bit. Here it gets a little bit darker, and then it's a little shadow. And to soften the edge of that, just take water. Take water and then just wet it. And just bring it over. Let's bleed over a little bit. And then it comes back this way. If you don't want any edge there, you just wet the whole thing with clean water. So you just go like that and you just wash that off. On the bottom here, this whole arm is a little bit darker. So I'm just going to take and wet it with my little bit larger brush. Her whole arm here should be a little bit darker. Not as dark as the background, but just a little bit darker so that you get the feel that it's going back. And so now I'll put a little bit of blue in there. Just a little bit. See now, right there, I need to make it nice and thick. So I need thick paint again. I need a solid paint, no water in my brush, and so that I can create a shape of the shadow. I can't let it bleed all over and just bleed to where it doesn't get sharp. I need it to be sharp and thick, and so I use a lot of paint for that. I try not to put too much water in my brush because it's already a lot of water down there. So it kind of goes around here. It's wet, and you can push it around a little bit. It's the use of controlling your edges. That's one thing I really have to teach you guys, and I've been trying to teach you guys that most of the time, is to go in and get that softness by the amount of pigment you put down compared to water ratio. And like, look at her hand too here. This is really dark like the background, so I'm just going to make this a little bit darker. Kind of wet that. And then bring it over and soften the edge by just putting water down. Let it go on her wrist here. And now we're going to go into her outfit. And in the background here, like this frilly stuff here, the fringe, the lace. It's going to go in there now and just make it really thin lines because if you look close, let me just spread this up for you to see how close what it is. So if you look, make this big. It's just a bunch of lace right here, and you see the edges of the lace a little bit more than anything. So I'm gonna make the edges of the lace come out. So let's make this smaller again, bring this down. Okay, now I go in here and I'm just gonna make some lines. And then we'll just make some hard edges go to the lace. We don't need to make the soft. The soft I already did. You just go in here and then bring down some of the edges. Brings down some of the edges of the lace. You can get some of it to look soft edged. Some of it will be dark and some will have light into it and you'll see through it. That's the thing, you want to keep the stuff behind it so that it looks like you're seeing through this lace. So basically you're just seeing the edges of what it is. You know, seeing the edges of this lace, and keep it hard edged. It's okay to keep it hard edged. Small little lines here and there. I'm also keeping it dry, so I'm picking up a little bit of texture of the paper, because the paper is a 300-pound Stonehenge aqua, and it's pretty cold pressed, and so I'm getting these edges. Here's her collar. Just make the collar here. She has a light button in here, but instead of making it light, I'm going to make it, let's see, what should I make it dark? You see a little bit of her chest here a little bit. And then a little bit more dark through here. It's kind of fun being able to use the black, and you know, for the longest time I would never use black because, you know, it was just, that was the way I was taught. And so that's what I'm teaching my students. Go ahead and use black, but know why. And if you want it colorful, add color to it. But there's times when you want it to be a rich dark, and so I'll use like the black and the Prussian blue together, and it becomes a very, very rich, colorful dark. Little lines, and this is where my fine brush, my super fine thin brush point on my brush really works well. So that's lace. I'm just getting it lacy. And then where you don't want to see anything, where you want a kind of lost edge, just fill it in. It'll look like a hole, and that's okay. I mean, there's times when you want it to look like it's just a hole in there. Now this arm, look how bright that is. I mean, we're gonna have to put a little bit of color in there too. And though if you see my camera, actually I have my lights too bright on my stage. I gotta learn how to brighten off my thing. Let me just put this down a little bit. I noticed that you're just burning out my arm there. Let's tone it down a little bit. Let's make it a little bit less. Let's see if you can see it more. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I'm constantly adjusting my workspace here for you guys. One of these days we'll get it perfect. All right, so that arm, and so I'm just avoiding the face yet because that will take a little bit more time. I'm going to make this a little bit darker, and then I'll go back in and wash out the area right there for the button. There's a button right there between your collar. Though I don't want to lose a little bit of where you can see through and see a little bit of flesh in there. Let's make this arm, I'll wait for that. Let's go right into the face. We're at face stage. Let's get that done. So here now with the face, I'm basically drawing. I'm making it super detailed and super fine details. Almost like now I'm going to put lipstick on her, and her upper lip is going to be a little bit darker than the bottom lip, and so I'm going to go in here and just use a little bit of red, but it's a kind of a dark red. A little bit of alizarin in there. It's actually a little bit of blue in there. It's not a super, she doesn't have super bright lips, bright red lips. down here. And oh boy, it's kind of important the shape of the drawing that you do, because that's, I mean, this now is detail, and so you really have to follow your line that you put in there so that it looks like the person. So this is where the detail and the drawing, your drawing ability comes into effect. Knowing how, I mean, even though maybe even if you trace it, you still have to be able to paint it. And so sometimes when you're painting it, you still have to know drawing wise how to make something look, come forward, go back. So I know a lot of people say, well, tracing it, you'll never learn how to draw, but it helps you to see it too when you're tracing it. Just, it's when you're tracing it. I mean, I spent many years drawing from my imagination, and it's the thing helped me out a lot when it came to drawing. And that's, I hopefully be teaching that this year. It's how to draw from your imagination. So there we have a little bit of her lips. And then the bottom of her nose, let's go into her eyelashes first, because her eyelashes are up here dark. And then we'll go right in from her eyelashes to her her eyebrows we're going to do first, then to her eyelashes. So here's her eyebrow. You just see it through the hair a little bit. And then this eyebrow comes right down into the darkness of her face. It comes right down into the shadow of the side of her nose. I'll put a couple little hairs going, affecting that. Kind of comes down here. This is where you take it slow. You don't go fast, and take your small brush, because you're drawing. Basically, you're drawing with your brush. And I'm putting colors. Now, when it's wet, I color it. Put some other colors in there. A little bit of warmth, red, pink. It still has to be pretty dark. And I'm going underneath her nose a little bit darker. Don't worry about the super, super fine detail darks, like the nostrils. I'll do that in a second. I'll do that later on when it's dry. Right now I'm getting the bigger parts. Always the bigger parts of the dark first. And then it goes right down into her. And then we've got the dark of her bottom of her eye here, a little mascara, or it's just dark right lower. The lower part of her eyes are a little bit darker. And again, I'm not putting in the super detail yet. This is just the bigger parts of the dark. Though I am being very careful to try to get the look of whatever line I have there. And that's like, it takes a little bit longer, it takes a little bit slower. I'm going to make her lips a little bit darker, a little bit more red. And see, I don't have the black in there yet. And for her eyelashes and stuff, I'm going to use my rigger brush, my one almost like the long rigger. See the long rigger, I'll use that. Use solid black and put in her eyes first, and I will put dots in with white for her highlights. If I were making this a little bit bigger, where I need to see color in her eyes, I'd make the one part a little bit lighter in there. But this is so far away and it's so small that I really don't have to worry too much about getting an exact look of each eyelash and her eye color. I'm going more for the values. And she's got the lid, a little bit line for the lid. And like I said, I don't see eyelashes per se, but I know that they're up there. That's what makes it look really dark right there. I will put the eye highlight in there in a little bit. This is underneath her eye. Her eyelashes also are dark. Same thing with this side. I'll go and do that underneath, and this side is really dark. Little line that separates the lid. And you notice how small I'm working now. I'm going small, so. Is there any questions yet? No questions. Again, I will be putting this on YouTube again later on also, so that people can see it afterwards. I don't really schedule these. It's just something I just wanted to do this morning, and so I was sitting there watching TV, my favorite program Sunday morning, and I just decided, oh, you know what, I gotta do this. I gotta do a painting of a portrait. And here, I'm gonna paint this really dark. She has super dark eyes. Man, that's what makes her look so interesting. Make it nice and dark. And this, you can see the eyelashes, eyebrow. It's kind of all connected. You almost don't see that on this one. And when it gets darker, it'll just, I'm blending it together, bringing it down. And now what I was saying before with the whites of the eyes, they can be lighter there, but it doesn't have to be white. And if you do need to be a little bit lighter, you can just put a little bit of gray white in that area. I got this eye a little bit too thick, too dark. So what I'll do is I'll take out a little bit right here. And the highlight will, you'll see how the highlight will make it look really realistic and wet once I get the highlight in there. And I'm going to make this side away from the highlight a little bit lighter. Same thing on this side, make it a little bit lighter. A little red in the corner. Put a little red where the tear duct is. A little bit warm right there. This eye needs to be a little bit bigger. And then her nostrils. Now I'm gonna get a little bit more dark parts of the shadows. And the hair, nice and dark, really fine. See, I'm getting more and more detail. The more and more detail you put into it, the more it looks more realistic then, right? I mean, you just have to wait until it gets more and more realistic. And a little bit darker right through here. Let's see, her hair goes up. This part it takes a little bit longer because you got to spend some time on it, and don't rush it, especially this part. I mean, you can't rush it because you got to go slow and get to look like what it is that you're painting and drawing. And I'd love to be able to rest my hand on here so now it's finally dry, and I go in here and I can get my shadowing nice and small. This is probably not so much fun to watch, painting this part when you're just watching super small things being done, but it has to be done. At a certain point, you've got to get in there with the small stuff. I know it seems weird to use black into face, but there's a little bit of color in underneath. But it's so dark, and it's all about, that's the big thing about her, is that it's really dark. Putting the nostrils in. I just put a little red in the nostrils to make them look not dirty. So I take a little bit of red, light them up a little bit. They're warm. They're warm. And again, my screen here is kind of, for some reason, I think I have too much light on. It's blurring out, blowing out my lights, my middle tones, so you can't almost see them, which I'm going to have to work on that. Smoothing it out a little bit, so everyone knows, smooth it out. Again, making the nice little fine lines for her hair. Each strand, you can do that. Get a couple strands going down over here and over here. Let me just turn this light. All right, let me wet this thing, and we're almost done here, guys. We're just going to do a little bit more on the bottom lip. Just don't like how it's blowing this out. You see how it's not quite blown out as it looks. I'm going to put a little bit of white dots, a little inner eye. We're going to do the highlights right on the opposite. Oh, it was still wet. Now it's going to go in there too much. Oopsie. Still wet. Let me get that out of there. Yeah, the other side is not wet, so we'll go in there. A little bit of a dot. Get some white inner lips. A little bit darker on the bottom of our lip. On the side here. Don't be afraid also. I noticed that a lot of people are afraid of doing people, and I'm going to put some of them in this year. I didn't do many people this last year in the in my lessons, but we're going to do a few portraits, I think, this year, and just try it. Again, it's all about the drawing, mostly about the drawing. If you can get the drawing on many of my students now, they know how to do this wet into wet, and they know how to use the pigments, so it's the same thing. You don't really have to worry when it comes to the way to do the painting. It's the drawing. When it comes to portraiture, it's all about the drawing. So I have to get you to learn how to draw well, or at least get the drawing on really well. Now let's wet her arm. This arm is just so blown out here. You can see it's like when I black it with the sun. Oh, not the sun. But I'm just gonna wet this whole arm and get a little bit more. Make it a little bit darker. See, I can wet the whole thing and it won't disturb it at all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of these shadows in here, make this a little bit darker. I'm taking a blue. See, I'm actually taking a blue, a nice dark in there, toning it down a little bit. I can put a little bit of warmth in there. And then this side of her arm, make this a little bit darker right here. And then just kind of go in here with a little bit more color, leaving the bottom part a little bit darker. I know it looks way too dark right now because it's wet, but once it dries, it'll dry very, very light. And I think we're very close. We just got to get a little bit more in her face and the shadowing in her face. I'm going to put a little bit of warmth on this side of her face. A little bit of a shadowing. A little bit more dark, slightly darker right around here. A little bit darker through here. Make your eye look a little bit lighter. A few more little hairs coming down off the back here. I know she has her pigtails, or yeah, pigtails. I think she has those up, so she doesn't have them coming down. These are just strands of her hair on this one because she's got her hair up on this one. Alright, and I think the last thing I'm going to do is work at the background a little bit more. Try to get a little bit more of the background darker to push some of the stuff into the background. So I'm just going to take and re-wet areas and make them just slightly darker. I don't think this area needs to be white. And so we're going to put a little bit of blue in there. Just make it a little bit darker. And you can always go back into dark areas and backgrounds. It's no problem. As long as you wet everything. You know, when you're doing this, wet it all again. Don't just do parts of it. Because you don't want the hard edges. I still want the soft edges. I want the floatiness to it. And here we go, dark in there. And here, I like that to be a little bit darker, especially her hand here. It's in the picture, it's a little bit more dark. Like this goes right into her hand. Kind of like to have this hand pop a little bit, so I'll make it a little bit darker here. And then re-wet this whole top here. Because I missed some of the darks, I mean, so I'm just going to really lightly wet it. I can go back in and still keep it looking floaty. Floating means that it does its own thing, and it's floating on the surface so that you still get the gradation. That's so nice. And any questions? Her chin needs a shadow. Which part of on the right side or left side of the chin? I think the left side a little bit more too, and actually the right side too. Let me get to that as soon as I get this part. Oops, I gotta go back to my... Up here, I think we've got some darks. Goes over to here. Pushing the stuff together so that it looks a little bit more, comes together. Like you don't need, like I always say, you don't need to see all the edges. Lose those edges for certain things so that it blends into the background here and there. And this whole area up here is a little bit darker too. In here, darken this a little bit, go right into her hair, because you don't need to see really exact tapping of the top of the head to make sure it's exactly, you know, a certain spot. No, you can make things bleed off and into the background, into the distance. That's okay, and actually is something I prefer. Lost edges, remember, lost edges. This nice and light. Right behind her head here is a little darker too. I don't need to see that really super harsh. I can push that back a little bit. Push that back and see I'm still getting, there's even reflections in there of the lighting, so it's still soft edged. And I think the only thing left is the side of her face, this part right here, a little bit darker. A little bit darker again because I put a wash in there and it didn't darken it enough. Her chin right here, she got a little dimple right there. And then we got a shadow that goes up here a little bit. And then that goes up to here. We got that shadow, that's all good. This side I'm keeping a little bit, let's give her a little bit of cheek. And again, you can't see that because it's kind of blown out with the light. See, there you go. See a little bit of the cheek right here. I put that a little bit there. And I didn't make it soft edge, but you know, that's fine. Just a little dark. Just got a little something on her arm. Wipe that off. So guys, I think I'm pretty close, guys. Of the details, nice and dark to show the edge of her dress. Here, get the edge a little bit more. All right, where's that light coming from? There's a, boy, I gotta redo the studio, guys. Anyways, thanks a lot, guys, for sticking in here and watching. Bottom middle right there. There we go. There's the... All right, I think that's it. Have a great New Year's this year, and come by, Please subscribe to my channel and have your friends subscribe. It really will help me a lot. Trying to do a lot of, if you know somebody that wants to learn how to do watercolor from the get-go, we're going to start this week with my newsletter. So have them sign up for my newsletter. I just noticed one thing, hold on. Have them sign up for my newsletter, and then we'll go from there. And each week on Thursday night, I do a paint-along, and we have so much fun. And so have them stop by and get my newsletter, because everything's in my newsletter, and all the information on what we're going to be painting and all that kind of stuff is going to be happening. So have them sign up for the newsletter, and they'll get all that info. I think that is it, guys. Super fun. Oh, let me just do one more highlight on eye right here. This side of the eye, separate from the highlight. You make it a little bit lighter. It looks wet. Makes the eyes look wet then. There you go. Then their eyes look very real. Let's get one hair line right here. There you go, guys. Thanks so much, and like I said, have a great new year. And I will see you soon. I'll see you on Thursday. All right. So until then, I have nothing to toast you with this morning. I already drank my coffee, got it a little late. But have a great time. All right. See you on Thursday. Bye-bye.